Hello everybody, a very, very warm welcome to the Nürburgring for the second race of the day here for the 2015 FIA European Formula 3 Championship. It is about to be the 29th race of 33, and you know what that means. It means we're getting close to finding out who is going to become our champion this year. Earlier on today, Felix Rosenqvist, who for many came into this season as the favourite. He's the most experienced, the most winning driver on the grid. Well, he had a brilliant drive from pole position. He was flawless and he took a fantastic victory on used tyres, and his best lap time in that race was just a whisker, a few hundreds slower than his pole time, which was set on new tyres. Now Felix has also got pole position for this race and for the race tomorrow, because in both qualifying sessions he was by some distance the quickest driver out there. So there, number one, Felix Rosenqvist with an extended championship lead on pole position here at the Nürburgring. It's going to be quite some race, this. There are others around him that struggled in race one, had some bad luck. Jake Dennis had some bad luck, got contact into turn one. That ultimately ruined his race. Giovinazzi was on the outside line when that contact happened, and he ran wide and couldn't do anything about it, so he got stuck down in 10th place in the end. And Charles Leclerc, who is another of the championship contenders, had an okay race, but was only able to come home in 4th position. So Felix Rosenqvist has got a 58.5-point lead in the championship now. He can't wrap it up in this race, but he could wrap it up after the race tomorrow if it keeps going the way it's going. So I'm Chris Hartley, trackside here at Nürburgring. Alongside me, it's hello to Dave Richardson.
How appropriate. Felix Rosenqvist then, P1. And I was going to say, Jake Dennis is going to have the bit between his teeth, isn't he? He goes from P3, having had a disaster race one, as we look at Felix Rosenqvist here. But mention must be made also of someone that's really come together in the second half of this season, in my opinion, and goes from P2, and that's Lance Stroll. Yeah, very much so. Yeah, he had a bit of stick, didn't he, at the start of the season. Was involved in one or two incidents, let's say, including that spectacular barrel roll at Monza. Yes, I was there. Thankfully, he walks away from that. It was a horror roll, really. And, he got involved in other incidents. But he has always been quick. He's always had potential. And he's now got the racecraft starting to come towards him. He's feeling more comfortable in the car. He's really sorted out qualifying. He and George Russell are the two drivers who've really come on in terms of their qualifying performances in recent rounds, and it started to show in their race results as well. Although George Russell was unfortunate yesterday because at the Carlin team there was a problem with his engine. He had to change it, and that means that although George was second quickest in both qualifying sessions, he gets a 10-place grid penalty, which puts him back in 12th position. So in the first race he wasn't really able to come through, he wasn't able to get into the top 10 and into the points. So Felix Rosenqvist took his 10th win of the season earlier on today. Very likeable Swede. Has been trying for a few years to win this championship now. He's come very close. He's been second. Last year was a disappointment. He wasn't ever really in the running. But he switched teams to Prema Power Team, who have dominated the teams and the Drivers' Championship in recent seasons. And it has all clicked, and he's now got double the number of wins, more or less, than anybody else. His closest rival in terms of race wins is Jake Dennis, who's had 6. And there is Lance Stroll then, who, as I say, qualified 3rd, but popped up to 2nd, so he's second time on the front row of the grid for the Canadian. He's backed by Ferrari, a Ferrari young driver. And then 3rd on the grid is Jake Dennis, who has not had the best of luck at times this season. He's been very quick. He's won 6 races. But he's also had lots of retirements, I think half a dozen retirements, and more than anybody in the championship fight. He hasn't quite been able to have the consistency, but he is, no doubt about it, very quick. He's the Prema Power Team teammate to Felix Rosenqvist on pole position. And somebody else that was unfortunate in that first race was this very likeable Italian, Antonio Giovinazzi, who was kind of in the wrong place at the wrong time when it all kicked off at turn 1. Yes, and he really suffered for that, and Antonio Giovinazzi goes from P4 in this race. Of course, Antonio Giovinazzi is P2 in the points, but is a fair margin back from Felix Rosenqvist. Mikkel Jensen then, we can see on the grid going from P5, and of course all these drivers benefiting from the fact effectively that George Russell has, due to that engine change, gone back down the order as the grid girls leave the grid. Now we've seen some phenomenal Formula 3 race. It's been another standout season for the FIA Formula 3 European Championship as we look at Charles Leclerc now for the Van Amersfoort racing team. the very team that, of course, engineered Max Verstappen last year, who, as we speak, of course, is racing in Formula One in Japan.
Indeed so, and has on many occasions been the most entertaining driver in the Formula One races for my money. He's, some said he was too young for Formula One. We had none of that, did we?
No, absolutely, and it proved the point that all this, oh, he's too young, he shouldn't be doing this, shouldn't be doing that. Actually, I think he's been a great credit to young drivers, hasn't he?
He's livened up a few dull Formula One races this season, that's for sure. Nick Cassidy, great first podium for him. Only his second weekend in the championship, currently second in the Japanese Formula 3 Championship, the New Zealander. And here's a young driver that's continued to impress. He had good progress in race one, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. Big hair and big personality, Santino Ferrucci. And for my money, he's always very, very entertaining, sometimes for right, sometimes for wrong reasons. But nonetheless, you always know that when Santino Ferrucci is in the race, you're going to get 110% from him. He's always going to try, isn't he? And also been very, very impressed with this man this weekend, Callum Ilott, that drives for Carlin, of course, has that Red Bull livery on his car. Another supremely talented youngster, Chris. Yeah,
great job to get his maiden podium. Fresh from karting this year. He's never raced in cars until this season. And got his first podium from third on the grid, but he's a bit low down the grid for this one. Marcus Pommer, the opposite end of the scale, really, to somebody like Callum Ilott. He's got loads of single-seater experience over the years. He's here in his home country. First season in the FIA Formula 3 Championship, but he has done Formula 3 racing nationally in the past and has started to come good in the second half of the season. There's another very quick young driver, Arjun Maini, the Indian driver, front runner in the British Formula 4 Championship last year, and another star BRDC driver, British Racing Driver Club star, is George Russell, who, as I say, was brilliant in qualifying and did really well at Zandvoort last weekend, and first ever time at the Masters race, which is separate to this championship. Not all the big guns were there, but lots of them were, and he finished second, so he was only behind the man that's second in the championship at the moment, Antonio Giovinazzi.
George Russell winning, of course, the McLaren Autosport Award last year, and living just up the road from me, to be fair, East Anglian. So George Russell then, due to that engine change, will be going from P12, but has shown incredible pace in that Carlin car across qualifying this weekend. So all the cars are set then. Of course, we should make mention of the fact that we have a brand new car on the grid, Chris, right at the back of the pack, and it's the car from Russia, isn't it?
Yeah, new team, new driver to this championship. He's back on the 33rd spot on the grid, but the Artline Engineering team coming into the championship. Harold Schlegmilch, the Latvian, managed to finish his first race, but just developing the car, developing the driver. Let's see if we see more of them in the races next season. Lots of exciting drivers coming into the championship next season, we are led to believe, and the year after that as well. Lots of drivers coming to the place to be, really, in terms of the development of young drivers in single-seater racing. So Felix Rosenqvist is leading them round on the formation lap from pole position. He now moves on to 403 points in the championship. Giovinazzi is second on 344.5 points, so a half points awarded at Monza, which is why we've got a slightly odd point system. 58.5 points behind, with only these 5 races to go in the championship now. Charles Leclerc is third in the championship on 336.5. Jake Dennis didn't score earlier, stays fourth in the championship. You see the grid there. We've been through it, but very quickly the top 10. Felix Rosenqvist on pole, Lance Stroll second, third is Jake Dennis, fourth is Antonio Giovinazzi, fifth is Mikkel Jensen, sixth is Charles Leclerc, seventh is Nick Cassidy, eighth Santino Ferrucci, ninth is Callum Ilott, and 10th is Marcus Pommer. Alessio Lorandi did qualify in the top 10. That is another one that had to change the engine at the start of the weekend and gets a 10-place grid penalty, so the Italian is going to be back 20th on the grid. And one more point about Charles Leclerc is that he could, if it goes well in this race, wrap up the rookie championship here, because he's 118.5 points clear of George Russell, and after this race there'll only be 100 points up for grabs. So it looks like Charles Leclerc is going to win the rookie championship, as we see the circuit map here, Dave.
Yes, and it, as you'd indicated earlier, it's a track of two halves, really. This 3.6 kilometre circuit. The first part of the lap is quite twisty, isn't it? When they go through turn 1 and then into the Mercedes arena and out, and then they drop down and run behind the paddock, heading up towards the NGK chicane, where they build up an awful lot of speed before it's heavy braking into that chicane, which it never ceases to amaze me. There's supremely sophisticated Formula 3 cars, just how they throw them through that NGK chicane, taking curb in and out before the Coca-Cola turn and back onto the start-finish straight. So pit lane start there.
Yes, now is that Raoul Hyman? It could be the West Tech car. Difficult to make out from there, but yeah, one starting from the pit lane. One to watch could be Nick Cassidy, the New Zealander, second in race number 1. Not a newcomer to F3, raced at Macau at the end of last season, very competitive there, and did some F3 racing last year, and as I say, was at Portimao last time in Portugal, and is here this weekend. So he 7th on the grid, a bit further back for this one, but he's one definitely that could come through. And Santino Ferrucci, we already mentioned, made up 6 or 7 places in race number 1 to come from the middle of the grid up to 7th place. So there is the number 1 car of Felix Rosenqvist. He had what he described as probably his best ever start in Formula 3. He hooked it up beautifully. And let's see if he can do the same again. But Lance Stroll will have the, I'm sure, audacity to try and move if he can on the way into turn number 1 and try and get his first win. And Jake Dennis has got nothing to lose in a sense. Let's see what he can do from third as the red lights come on. Revs rise, noise rises, tension rises. What's going on with the red lights? They haven't gone out. So confusion at the start. Red lights are still on. They didn't go out. Now they go green. It's all a bit late, and that surely is going to be an aborted start.
It's got to be, hasn't it? Got to be.
Blimey, that was a long hold.
Now, I don't actually... But I don't actually know why. Now, of course, we see the back end of the lights. Why did Rosenqvist go? Because the lights never went out, Chris.
Was expecting it, wasn't he?
Well,
you know, it should have happened by now. I mean, the time between the red lights fully going on and them going out varies, but what happened? A yellow flag was waving here, so somebody had alerted the officials, I think, to the fact that they got a problem with the car, which is why he got aborted, but not everybody got that message. It was Raoul Hyman started from the back of the field. Yeah, some started and some didn't, and it was very nearly a dangerous situation. That
could have been very bad, couldn't it?
You think that these cars can do, you know, up to 100 kilometres an hour in 3 seconds, and some of them were still stationary. So, teams on the radio trying to tell the drivers what's happening. There's Fritz van Amersfoort there, of the Van Amersfoort Racing Team, the silver hair and the glasses.
Oh, in fairness, I was wrong. The orange lights did come on.
Yeah, they did, yeah. But there was definitely a feeling that some drivers were starting that race, weren't they, further back? I think Rosenqvist spotted it straight away, didn't he, to be fair? But there were 4 or 5 others that launched themselves and didn't really realise what was going on. So presumably they got the message that somebody had a drama on the grid, although it looked like they all pulled off the circuit. Well, yes. Nobody was stuck on the grid, I don't think.
Well, I should have been looking at the lighting gantry. Didn't see the yellow lights first time around, but... well, cars making their way around the circuit now. Thankfully, any disasters averted, I think.
Yeah, it was close, though, wasn't it?
It was close. It was close.
So they wouldn't have done the nerves any good.
No.
They wouldn't have done the cars much good either, but they're back round to the grid. New tyres on for Felix Rosenqvist for this race as well. So if he was quick in race 1, what's he going to do in this one?
Just behind, you can see Jake Dennis is always very, very aggressive going to the grid, isn't he? Really throwing the car sideways and lighting up the rear tyres. Is
Felix Rosenqvist, Pau Grand Prix winner. Not this year, Giovinazzi won it this year after a huge amount of bad luck for Jake Dennis, who led the whole weekend and won all the races up until the final stages of the race itself. Broken suspension and he was out there. It is Raoul Hyman in the pits. So the South African will join once they've all gone past into turn number 1. Last few rows just forming up now. And I think they're all there, apart from Hyman.
So this will be take 2 for race 2. Green flag from the marshal at the rear.
Calm before the storm. Here comes the noise, everybody. Focus your attention on those lights. They go out this time. The race gets underway. Great start from Felix Rosenqvist. Arjun Miney's had a very good start as well. And will try and get himself up into the top 7 or 8 if he can. Jake Dennis had a great start in race number 1. It didn't come to much. And Giovinazzi's had a great start down the inside. Lance Stroll is going to be 2nd. Who's going to be 3rd? It's going to be Jake Dennis. Giovinazzi trying to go around the outside of him still though at turn number 2. And he does it. The Italian through into 3rd place. What a move that was. So Jake Dennis down to 4th position. Callum Ilott looking feisty as well as he runs out wide to try and gain some positions in the Red Bull liveried car, and everybody cleanly away. Fantastic start though. Look how clear Felix Rosenqvist is. Stroll in 2nd. That was a fabulous move from the yellow Gigonia I am with Carlin car of Giovinazzi. He's been a good starter this year. And from 4th place, he got himself into 3rd position by being super, super brave, Dave, around the outside of turn 2.
That was extraordinary as we see Michaela Beretta out on the grass and kicking up some dust. But look where Felix Rosenqvist is built up such a gap already. It was another stellar start from Felix Rosenqvist, but what a move from Giovinazzi. Jake Dennis is running down there in P4, so leader goes through. There's P2, Lance Stroll. P3 is Antonio Giovinazzi. Then it is Jake Dennis, P4.
Yeah, I think there's a certain element of Jake wanting to actually get through the first corner this time as well, given what happened to him in race number 1. There's Felix Rosenqvist looking in the mirrors, thinking, well, where are you? Come on, keep up with me. Over the line he goes. A massive 1.7 seconds clear. Giovinazzi is the one to watch here. He got stuck down in the pack after being delayed at that start, which was not really his fault or his issue. He was just stuck on the outside line, so he ended up outside the points. He got up to 10th, but then he never really made any more progress. But he's gunning for points here. Giovinazzi, as we see contact further down the field there. I think that's Pietro Fittipaldi missing bits of his car. The red, white and blue machine looks like it's come to grief, the Full-Tech car. And one of the Muka Motorsport cars as well is off. So Fittipaldi, I think, is missing part of his front wing, isn't he?
Yes.
Front, in fact, all of it. It's all off. So he's going to be limping back to the pits. And one of the Muka Motorsport cars we saw from the high shot there. And we got others running off the circuit as well. One of the Motorpark cars, I think, getting in a bit of strife. So Rosenqvist leads. Stroll is 2nd. Giovinazzi 3rd, but closing on the Canadian, I reckon. Dennis next up. And here we get a replay.
It was that yellow Jaguar IAM car that was
at the locker. Right. So Fittipaldi just clipped the back of the other car, of the Muka car. So that's why the Muka car's in strife. And lost his wing that way.
That took the entire front wing off, didn't it?
I think it was probably Ryan Tvetter looking at the running order, who was just in front of him. No, it wouldn't have been Ryan Tvetter, sorry. It would have been, Sorales, actually, I think. Yes, because it was the Muka car, wasn't it?
In just 2 laps. Rosenqvist has got 2.6 seconds on Lance Stroll.
Yeah, with these new tyres, I'm even quicker than he was in race number 1, I reckon. It's Callum Ilott having a big, long, hard stare around the outside, and he had to look at the barriers for a moment as well, but luckily there's lots of runoff there. That didn't pay off. And so he's going to lose a position here to George Russell. Yeah, Russell goes through. Ferrucci trying to come together with his teammate, or not come together with him, but get ahead of him rather. Don't come together with him, that's a bad idea. And having another feisty race here in the number 5 car with Mikkel Jensen, who was in the top 6 earlier on and on the rookie podium. At Ferrucci through. George Russell trying for all his might to get through as well, and back alongside him goes Callum Ilott. A bit of contact there with Mikkel Jensen. Jensen somehow keeps his nose in front, and then the number 30 car of Callum Ilott tucks in behind him. Has another look at the inside here. He's full of beans, Callum Ilott. He's got his confidence boosted after that podium finish earlier on. And George Russell in the dark blue Carling car just behind has the better run. We cut away just to think as George Russell was about to make the move for the position. Did he get through? He did. George has got his nose in front, but he hasn't got the right line for the corner, and Callum Ilott gets him back here. Great Formula 3 racing from the 2 British drivers there.
It is absolutely brilliant to watch, isn't it? Rejoining then is from the pit. So much going on is Pietro Fittipaldi. See some dust being kicked up at the back there as well as this battle continues. Look at this. Callum Ilott and George Russell absolutely together here.
Fantastic. These 2 young British drivers, both in their first season of Formula 3 racing. They've swapped positions a couple of times here. They are currently running up there in the points in 9th and 10th positions. Arjun Miney having a go now at Nabil Jeffrey, and Pietro Fittipaldi's got a problem here. Has been in the pits, had a nose change already. In fact, I don't think he has got a problem. I think he's just staying well out of the way, isn't he? Probably sensible.
Right, yes.
He's already a lap down, so there's no point getting involved, really. So, fantastic stuff. Now, Arjun still ahead of Nabil Jeffrey there in the Petronas backed car. The Malaysian, another one who's been getting quicker and quicker this season.
Lurandi is one to watch as well. I mean, wherever you look at the moment, there is stuff going on, isn't there? You don't know which way to look.
Feels a bit like, yes, we're all going to take it easy in race 1, and now we're all going to go for it in race 2, because let's face it, mechanics, you've got all night to fix the cars. Not another race till tomorrow now, so they're really pushing hard, aren't they? Now, there's a problem with that car? Yes, that's the car which got hit earlier on in the back, which is the 35 car of Felix Sorales, who joined Muka Motorsport earlier in the season. So he was the one that Fittipaldi went into the back of, which is why Fittipaldi lost his wing and went into the pits. Right, catch your breath. What's happening at the front? Felix Rosenqvist he's gone. He's 3.6 seconds ahead of Lance Stroll. His teammates, Giovinazzi still third, a second behind the Canadian. And there's going to be a move here, is there, from Alessio Lorandi? Yes, there is. And no, it's not a good one because he makes contact with Nabil Jeffrey. He sort of half thought about it, then backed off, then went again, didn't he? Oh, full spin there as he gets back on the circuit for Nabil Jeffrey. And he almost spins himself into the pack. Blimey, that was close. Somehow they all just about missed him. They wouldn't have seen that coming. So he's a bit heavy on the right foot there to try and get back on the race. But anyway, he's got back and all carnage was just about avoided.
Well, Pietro Fittipaldi's been given a drive-through penalty for jump start, and so too has Michele Beretta.
Right.
Sorry, I wasn't going to interrupt you when you had so much going on. Forgive me.
Although Fittipaldi is, I think, giving up, isn't he? Yeah, it's a lap down. And now here's the replay of the move. Door was open. You see, well, Randy thought about it. Then he thought, I'll back off. Then he went anyway. And yeah, just two didn't fit into one, I'm afraid. Both argue their case in that one. Racing incident, I would suggest, but it's up to the stewards to look at that, not me. Yeah, he clattered the curb, which didn't help as well.
Yeah, that kind of launched him, didn't it? A little bit.
Yeah, the front was unstable then. Couldn't turn him as he wanted to. Yeah, had he not clattered the curb, they might just have got round the pair of them. And then we might get the replay of Nabil Jeffrey being a bit too eager to get back on the circuit in a moment because he spat himself back into the path of everybody else. And while all that was going on, there was more contact further down the order. Julio Moreno.
It was Matt Solomon, wasn't it?
Coming together with Matt Solomon, yeah. So Matt's sent up into the air. And the Hong Kong driver, I'm afraid, is down the order as a result of that. Matt Solomon, in his first season of Formula 3 racing, having been very successful in all the other championships in which he's raced. There is Beretta having served his drive-through penalty. And Matt Solomon into the pits now. And the car being looked at by the RR Racing team there.
Safety car has been deployed. And that gives me a moment just to bring you up to speed, if I may, on some of the judicial items that I can bring you. The incident between Lorandi and Nabil Jeffrey is going to be under investigation. Also under investigation is the incident between the Julio Moreno car and Matt Solomon. And there is the safety car waiting to pick the cars up, and an eager marshal will be waiting to pick those bits up that are scattered all over the track.
So Rosenqvist's all his hard work to get this, I think he had a 3.5 second lead or something like that. That's gone now. They'll all be back on his case. But he's been pretty good at his restarts this season. He's had to do a few as well, Felix Rosenqvist, so he's been pretty good at that.
One that sticks in my mind is at Portimao when he virtually came to a stop and actually in the press conference afterwards explained and complained about the safety car driver who was just, you know, he sped up, slowed down, and said, well, you know, I was going to decide when I was going to go, you know.
Oh, that's a shame. Matt Solomon is out of the race. Too much damage to the car, I'm afraid. Hopefully he'll be back in action tomorrow for race 3. Right, so Rosenqvist leads. And then we've our back marker, Seralis. So ignore that one. We don't ignore it completely because it might play a part in this. But that's not a front runner. Stroll, number 25, is second. Giovinazzi, number 3, is third. And, well, Stroll was keeping him at bay until the safety car. So Giovinazzi might think my best chance here is going to be on the restart. Dennis is fourth. Fifth is Leclerc, who's just not quite been on the front-running pace this weekend, has he? He's not been far away, but he's just in that sort of second tier, isn't he? Looking for sort of fourth position maybe as a best possible result, unless others have problems. Nick Cassidy's up to 6th. 7th is Ferrucci. 8th is Jensen. 9th is Russell. 10th is Eilert. Hopefully there'll be a resumption of that battle because that was very entertaining,
really
wasn't it? Right, replay of the start, the real start, the one that actually happened. Brilliant start from Felix Rosenqvist. I mean, he couldn't have hooked that up any better, could he? He was about 3 lengths clear when they got to turn 1. But look, watch the yellow car of Giovinazzi. So he goes to the inside, brakes, has to get out of the way, off the throttle. So he's given up on second, but he's not given up on third. Watch him now go around the outside of Jake Dennis into turn 2. You have to be a brave man to go around the outside of Jake Dennis because he's one of the very quick drivers in the championship. And there was a coming together into the gravel at turn 1 further back down the pack. But at the front of the field, they all made it through.
Adrian Tombe then taking a keen interest in the way this Formula 3 race has developed.
Jeffrey and Alessio Lorandi. That one under investigation, as Dave said. Stewards will look at it, and then he span himself back on track, and whoop, blimey. Yes. That was perhaps a bit hasty. So front suspension damage for Lorandi. That car out, that car stranded, and that's why we got the safety car. Bill Jeffrey got going again. Lorandi just trying to make his way back at the pack, because we know he was quick enough for a top 10 in qualifying, but he was down in 20th with his grid penalty. And, well, he's another driver that's not afraid to attack. We've seen some quite lively moments from Alessio. He's certainly got lots of speed. There's another one up from karting, and that was a replay of Marino and Solomon. And Marino going into Solomon there. Solomon sent up into the air. And I guess damage to the suspension of the car, which is why he dropped out of the race. And newcomer drops out of the race as well, by the looks of things. He's in the pits anyway, Harold Schlegelmelch.
Lights out on the safety car. It comes in this lap, so it'll be a resumption of racing, and Felix Rosenqvist now will back them all up, won't he?
Yeah, get the binoculars out to see where Rosenqvist is from the safety car, which is halfway back to the pits by now. So Rosenqvist controlling the pace. He'd be pleased, I think, that he's got his teammate behind him. So the back markers, Sorales, has been waved on by the looks of things. So we have got all of our front runners together here, ready for the restart, Dave. And look at him go. The Swede's gone already, and they haven't even got out of the last corner. They've got no chance of passing him at turn 1 here.
No, but Giovinazzi has kept with Stroll, hasn't he? So Giovinazzi is going to, I don't think he's close enough to try another move up the inside going into turn 1, or is he? No.
I'll try and cut back maybe for turn 2, but no, Lance Stroll saw it coming. George Russell having a go, getting stuck in again here. That's with Mikkel Jensen. So the dark blue car around the outside of the orange car, but it was a bit of wheel banging, I think, into turn number 1. But George Russell goes through. He's another good overtaker, George Russell. And here's number 29, Arjun Mindy, trying to get past Jessica Kamara, who was on the podium at the Masters. And there is another car in the gravel. It's Ryan Tveta. Gustavo Menezes, the American driver, into the gravel trap there. The Gigonia I Am teammate of Antonio Giovinazzi. And he's well and truly buried in the gravel there. So George Russell ahead of Mikkel Jensen. That puts him back to 8th place now.
George Russell really got the bit between his teeth. There is Gustavo Menezes then. So
what happened to him? On his own, straight on, locker. And whether that was an issue with the car, whether it was driver error, we don't know. But he carried a lot of speed and didn't really turn into the corner, did he?
One of our commentary colleagues, David Addison, has this saying that safety cars breed safety cars. And sure enough, it's deployed once again.
Yes, because they all bunch up. And when they're all bunched up into turn 1, things might happen. And that's been the case a few times. Didn't get any of this in race number 1, but it's safety car. Obviously, the safety car driver they felt was having too much of a T-brake, so they're making him work a bit harder this time. So, Rosenqvist, well versed in his restarts, going to have to pull another one off. Quite impressed with the way Lance Stroll was able to fairly easily keep Giovinazzi behind him on the restart.
Yes.
Did a good job, didn't he?
Yes, he did.
Dennis in 4th place. Lance Stroll, by the way, whereas Charles Leclerc was certainly the best rookie in the first part of the season, Lance Stroll has, in recent times, become the best rookie. He's taken a number of rookie class wins on the bounce recently. And he's 2nd overall, but the best rookie. Leclerc is the 2nd best rookie in 5th. And then we've got George Russell in 8th place, looking for another rookie podium finish. But he's going to lose more points to Leclerc here. Leclerc will pick up, in terms of the rookie point standings, which is separate points, he'll pick up 18. Russell will pick up 15. So that means he'll be 121.5 points behind with only 100 points to go. So it should wrap up Leclerc's rookie championship. But Charles, being Charles, he'll be pleased with it, but it's the main championship he's gunning for. And it's not quite worked out for him the last few rounds, has it? The results have just gone off the boil, as Gustavo Menezes hops over the barriers and hopes that he'll have a better run of it tomorrow in the final race of the weekend.
So as we see Gustavo Menezes then make his way back to safety. His car in the gravel is what meant the safety car was deployed once again, which means, as Chris has indicated, Felix Rosenqvist is going to have to do it all over again. certainly backed them up perfectly on the last time of asking, as the Gustavo Menezes car is put into safety. We'll await that recovery vehicle. That will have to be put back to safety before the safety car will be sent back into the pit lane.
Been a couple of drivers making good progress in this race. Alex Albon, who's 6th in the championship, had problems with the car in qualifying, the signature car, started 25th on the grid. He's up to 15th. So the other one who's made great progress is Tatiana Calderon, the Colombian driver, one of the Carlin drivers, and also the 3rd most experienced driver on the grid in terms of race entries. As, oh dear, we see a problem for Wing Chung Chang, who I think has had a spin. We didn't see it, but it looks like he's had a spin, doesn't it? The way he's, rather than a technical problem. So he'll get going again. But yes, Tatiana Calderon had a great run so far. She started 21st on the grid. She's up to 14th place, trying to get her first points of the season. Second half of last year, Tatiana was a regular points finisher, and that's what happened.
Launched into the back of Matt Rowe's car.
Yeah, back into the back of the number 14 full-set car of Matt Rowe, the ex-Formula Ford racer. So hopefully his car's not damaged, but that was, yeah, not what you expect to see behind a safety car. So Matt Rowe, where is he running? In 17th place. Yeah, hopefully the back end of the car didn't take too much of a knock. The front wing is still on the number 31 car, Wing Chung Chang. But of course he's lost places. He won't be able to go back through the order here. No. Oh, hello, it's going on the grass now. Okay. It's down the escape road. Okay, well, maybe you will try and get some places back. No, go for the pits now. Okay, right. Okay, it's been a lively safety car window. Back to the pits he goes.
That's rather.
Well, you might as well. He's going to be at the back of the field anyway. You might as well check the car out, I suppose, while the safety car is still deployed.
Yes.
Superficially, it doesn't look like there should be any damage, but there could be damage to the steering or the suspension, I guess, or one of the wheels. It was a fairly square hit. Matt Rowe, I don't think, no, he hasn't come into the pit, so we're going to change the wing anyway. This is probably a sensible decision. The Fortec team, Richard Dutton's team. Gustavo Menezes, slow motion of him watching what's going on rather than being involved in the action. Gustavo in his second season, second campaign in Formula 3, watching his car being picked up.
Well, Chung is under investigation for overtaking during the safety car operation.
Back out he goes.
Returning. And in fairness, he's going to receive the black flag, Chris.
Okay, yeah, for overtaking during the safety car operation. So it wasn't the initial incident running into the back of Matt Rowe, it's the fact that he then went flying past people before he went into the pits, which is not acceptable to the officials, and so I'm afraid that's the end of his race. Right, safety car is about to head in. The race is about to restart.
About to head in, I think it's parked up. Sorry.
Yeah, he's gone. He's got the kettle on, he's going to have his cup of tea, and we'll about another 10-minute wait before Felix Rosenquist brings them up out of the Coca-Cola curve. It worked for him last time, though, didn't it?
Yeah,
and here we go. I'm going to floor it. You can't accelerate until I accelerate, so he's always got the advantage. But look at Giovinazzi. You can't pass him. Oh, going to get side by side with Stroll here, coming out of the last corner. Well, we haven't got to the start-finish line yet.
He can't do that.
Oh, so that Stroll comes over the line down in 3rd place. Dennis 4th. Leclerc 5th. Cassidy next up. Dennis good on the brakes there, closing in. Watch for Ferrucci as well on Cassidy. He's looking pretty close, and we know he's not shy of having a go. It's good to watch his Ferrucci. Lots of overtaking from the young American in his second season of Formula 3 racing. He can score more good points here. So Ferrucci pushing on. Santino 11th in the championship. Highlight of his career so far, a 2nd place finish at Spa. So, going to get a replay of this. Weaving, ducking and diving. Giovinazzi going through at the last corner before they got to the start line. That Stroll understeering wide lets the Italian through, and we'll see what happens. And the Prema team, who are supporting their man Lance Stroll, watching with a bit of disbelief. There's their other man, doing all right at the moment. They're first, third and fourth, the Prema drivers, with Jake Dennis, the Racing Steps Foundation livery, but very much a Prema Power Team driver. Racing Steps Foundation, who've really helped to back Jake's career in single-seater racing over the last few seasons. One of the top rookies last year in his second season of F3, and with a good background in Intersteps racing and Formula Renault. There he goes in fourth place. And here's Callum Eilert now trying to defend his position here from Mikkel Jensen. It's for ninth place. That's Sergio Sete Camara in the white machine trying to get in on the action as well. The Brazilian who's been a strong competitor in recent times. He's found his way onto the podium in recent races. Just trying to get into the points here. And Arjun Maini and Marcus Pommer are there to pounce should anything happen. But nobody actually changed positions in all of that. It's a battling performance though from Callum Eilert there in ninth position. Tino Ferrucci trying to go after Nick Cassidy and maybe taking George Russell with him. Arjun Maini trying to have a nibble now at Sergio Sete Camara, runs wide, goes on the curbs, loses all that momentum, and then in turn comes under fire from the motor park driver, number 34, Marcus Pommer.
And just behind Marcus Pommer is the hard-charging Alex Albon. So Rosenquist with a 1.5 second advantage at the front of the pack as we we've got just under 13 minutes of the race left to run.
Giovinazzi thunders through in second place, already 2.4 seconds behind the race leader. Just wondering where the safety car line is here.
I was going to say, because there's been no mention of that.
No, whether it's one of these unusual circuits. Silverstone's the same, where the safety car line is actually before the start line. There are some circuits where you can overtake. Maybe Giovinazzi was wise to that.
Yeah, well,
he hasn't given the position back, so he feels justified in that move.
And there's certainly no mention on the on our message board on the timing screen either. So Giovinazzi then is P2. There is Jake Dennis, who's running P4 at the moment. Lance Stroll P3. And Charles Leclerc just behind Jake Dennis, sorry.
So it's certainly determined and a deliberate move from Giovinazzi. He knew what he was doing, didn't he?
Yeah, it seemed to. So,
and he knew it was definitely going to be his best chance to get past Lance Stroll on the restart. So he'd worked up towards that. It's a good bit of out-braking, that's for sure. Giovinazzi, though, I don't think can live with the pace of Felix Rosenqvist. So it's Rosenqvist in the lead, looking for his second win of the day, looking to further extend his championship advantage. Giovinazzi may have got up to second place, but Giovinazzi is still going to lose 7 points to the championship rival, to the championship leader. So that will put him 65.5 points behind, with only 100 points still up for grabs. Only takes one DNF though, a couple of bad races, and it can all change again. And certainly in the press conference at the end of the race, Felix Rosenqvist was not even considering thinking or talking about the championship being decided yet. He's been there before, hasn't he?
Yes. Well, at the moment, he looks pretty comfortable with 2.7 seconds as we watch him now over Antonio Giovinazzi, who in turn has 1.1 over Lance Stroll. Leclerc and Nick Cassidy is running in P6. Leclerc is P5. Santino Ferrucci is P7. Just see that orange Mucca car with George Russell P8, Callum Eilert P9 and Mikkel Jensen P10.
Prema have now got 4 drivers in the top 6. Hello, that looks like...
Well, he's not so much of a runner, is he?
That looks like a report on its way. That's the Fortec team, isn't it? Yeah, so that's that's not involving anybody at the front of the field. You can see Pietro Fittipaldi, nephew of the double Formula 1 world champion Emerson Fittipaldi, out of the race. Unfortunately for him, Wing Chung out of the race as well after his incident earlier on, which is why Fortec, I think, are being delivered the message. And there'll be a report into that. And they'll be certainly having words, the driver, with the officials. So that's what we saw there at the head of the field. Again, an improvement for Felix Rosenqvist in terms of his advantage over Giovinazzi. He's pulled away by another 4 tenths. He's 3.2 seconds clear now. Giovinazzi in second place. Stroll third, still the leading rookie. Dennis fourth. A bit like Charles Leclerc, he's got good pace, but he hasn't got mega pace this weekend. And this is a battle which looks like it might be quite tasty, Dave.
Yes, I think this is shaping up to be something very special indeed. Santino Ferrucci then being hounded now by George Russell. There is George Russell, there is Santino Ferrucci. It's the battle for P7 at the moment. George Russell, of course, rookie driver. Santino Ferrucci, not so. It's K-Styler 24 Mooka Motorsport and Carlin battling together here. Seen some great racing from George Russell and also Callum Eilert. Their quest to get further up the order over this race. There's Mikkel Jensen, who's running in P10 with Sergio Seta Camara, then it's Arjun Maini and Marcus Pommer and Alexander Albon, the next 4 places behind those.
Big yellow line across the track just after the exit to the NG chicane. So there are a few lines, to be honest, around the circuit. But
right.
Obviously, Giovinazzi had
he knew that, didn't he?
Knew that. Stroll probably wasn't aware that was what was coming, and through he went into the final turn. So smart thinking from Giovinazzi, it seems. Second place at the moment, but as I say, still losing out to the championship leader, but doing as best as he can. And from fourth on the grid, second place, there he is. It's going to be a good result. Lance Stroll, though, looking for another podium finish. He's up to 7th place in the championship, Lance Stroll. He's had podiums. We had 2 in Portugal and a 4th place. He had a podium in the round before that at Spielberg as well. So it really has started to come on this year. And if he stays for another year in Formula 3, then the Canadian, the Ferrari protege, could be certainly one of the front runners next year, given the form that he's now got. And an increasing maturity, I think, in terms of the level of his racecraft and his driving, which is, I say, he's always had the speed, but now he's getting everything together and performing well, to be absolutely fair to him. Can't touch this man, though, can they? Felix Rosenqvist getting towards 30 race wins now in European Formula 3. Giovinazzi, a very strong driver as well, though. Winner of the Formula 3 Masters at Zandvoort last weekend by quite a long way. George Russell kept him honest for a little bit of the race, but in all honesty, Giovinazzi was above the rest in terms of his performance by just that little bit. They couldn't quite live with him last weekend, the Italian. So he won that one, first Italian to do so. Lance Stroll third. International field this. We've got a Swede in the lead, an Italian second. Third is a Canadian, fourth is a British driver. A driver from Monaco in fifth, the New Zealander in sixth, the American seventh, and then 2 more Brits and a Dane in the top 10 as well. European Championship in terms of where they race, but it's very much almost like a World Championship, isn't it, with the drivers from every corner. Somebody in his home country is Marcus Pommer, but he is fallen back from 10th on the grid and falling away from Arjun Maini there. Alex Albon's up to 14th now. Tatiana Calderon, who was the other one that made good progress in the first 7 or 8 laps, is down to 15th. But Alex Albon pushing hard in 14th place.
He is pushing hard and he's beginning to reel Pommer in, isn't he? So this will be interesting to see how that develops. What have we got? We've got 5 3/4 minutes left on the clock, and I think it's probably going to go to the clock, isn't it, rather than laps because of the safety car periods.
Yes.
Rosenqvist with 3.7 second margin over Antonio Giovinazzi. Then it's Lance Stroll, P3.
And that's Tatiana Calderon leaving the door invitingly open, just shutting it in time. Ryan Tveta, the American in the Jagonia IAM car, thought about it but didn't quite pay off. Raoul Hyman's getting stuck in as well once again, a bit further back. Now he's up into the top 20, having started in the pit lane. He's going wheel to wheel here with Sam McLeod, who had a good 5th place finish at Zandvoort last weekend in the Masters. Scottish driver who's raced here before in German single-seater racing. But they ran different tyres for the Masters race. They're on Kumo tyres, whereas it's the Hankook tyre for this championship. And Sam McLeod saying that he just struggled to really get on top of the tyre in the car this weekend. He found it much easier on the Kumo tyre because he is a driver with Formula 3 experience, having been a front runner in the British Formula 3 Championship. But a car can be completely different with different sets of tyres on in terms of its characteristics. As we see poetry in motion here, Felix Rosenqvist just going about his business. They asked him about at the press conference about points. He said, well, when I'm in the car, I'm just doing my thing. I'm just doing my job. I'm not thinking about the points, positions. I'm not worried about any of that. I'm just driving the car, which is the right way to go about it, I think, Dave.
Yes, I think you're right. And, he has continued to do what he does best. And by so doing, he's now got 4 seconds over P2, which is Antonio Giovinazzi. I was just looking at the side of Felix Rosenqvist's car, and from the beginning of the season, I just think there's more sponsor credits on the side of that car, and I hope that he's attracted more support and more attention because of his success, and I hope that continues for him because, of course, he's been so dominant, hasn't he?
Yeah, very much so. The most winning driver. 11 wins if he can stay like this. It'll be his 20th visit to the podium this season, and this will be his 4th win on the trot. And it will be his 12th successive podium. If it stays like this. Sorry, 11th successive podium.
Raoul Hyman's going to be shown the black and white flag for forcing another driver to leave the track.
Oh dear.
And there it is.
Warning. We're keeping an eye on you. You can carry on, but don't do it again. Is the message in that flag. Rosenqvist goes through. Got 3 minutes 4 seconds left on the clock, so time for a couple more laps. Maybe 3 actually. Yes, probably 3, just about. So just about going to get the race in, I think. There is Raoul Hyman, who's had this warning. The South African. He's up to 19th, but has been warned for his conduct. And there you go. We've seen that now. The team will have radioed it to him as well, just to make sure he knows about that.
While we've been watching that, I've just been keeping an eye on the P7 position, where it's just down to 3/10 between George Russell and Santino Ferrucci now, as another one of the Deutsche Post runners is coming down the pit lane. Where is he heading, I wonder? There is Antonio Giovinazzi then, who is running in P2 with Lance Stroll P3, and it's Dennis Leclerc, Cassidy, and then that battle I was talking about between Ferrucci and George Russell, which has just got a margin of 3/10, so George Russell has got a bit closer once again.
He had a run of 7 podiums on the bats, from the Norris Ring through Zandvoort through Spielberg. It's been a while since, apart from the Masters last weekend, separate to this championship, it's been a while since Giovinazzi was on the podium. 10th in the race earlier on, a couple of 8ths and a 9th, with a disappointing weekend in Portugal. So it will be good to see him back up there on the podium in 2nd place. There he is, and he'll at least cement 2nd place in the championship, but he is going to lose out more points to Rosenqvist, who will, as I say, move up to 65.5 points clear. If he's 75 points clear at the end of tomorrow, he'll have wrapped up the championship. Yeah. So Giovinazzi's just got to try and hang in there, but he's going to have to start behind Rosenqvist again tomorrow, because Rosenqvist again will be on pole position for that one. There's Lance Stroll looking for another podium. Certainly one of the drivers on form here at the moment in the championship, and looking comfortable in 3rd place. And, you know, in fairness to him, the only drivers ahead of him in this race, Dave, are the top 2 in the championship.
Yes, and in fairness, Jake Dennis hasn't been able to, they're a couple of seconds apart, aren't they? So you just see the back end of the Jake Dennis car there. But Lance Stroll doing a good job in P3.
Long way back now is Charles Leclerc in 5th place. There he is. Leclerc is another 3 seconds behind Dennis. Cassidy 6th, Ferrucci 7th, Russell the 3rd best rookie in 8th, Callum Eilert 9th, Mikkel Jensen in 10th place as we go into the last 30 seconds now on the clock. So they will, well, they've already started this lap, they will finish this lap. That will be the checkered flag next time around then. Final lap of the race here at the Nürburgring. Jake Dennis goes through. He's a fraction quicker than Lance Stroll, but only 0.004 of a second, so looks like he'll have to settle for 4th place, but it's certainly a big improvement on the bad luck that he had earlier on today. So it's been another masterful display, this, from Felix Rosenqvist. When you consider we've had 2 safety cars, Dave, and they've been on his tail a couple of times, he's going to win this one by more than 5 seconds, I think, unless he really backs off on this final lap.
Yes, he, as you say, it's been another masterful drive, and he controls those restarts so well, doesn't he? He doesn't allow anyone to anticipate when he's going to go for it, and he really does go for it. He backs them all up a treat, and he is, you know, every single thing that he's done is very, very measured and done extremely well. So Felix Rosenqvist then heading towards yet another checkered flag. Just got one more turn as he comes out of the NGK chicane now.
Yeah, there were times earlier in the season where he was down to third, fourth in the championship and he's had to battle, but he's on form and he's extending his championship lead. Felix Rosenqvist for the second time today wins here at the Nürburgring. It's now his 11th win of the season. Antonio Giovinazzi second. Lance Stroll on the podium once again is the best of the rookies, and Jake Dennis comes home fourth. Charles Leclerc crosses the line fifth. Nick Cassidy impressing again in sixth place. Santino Ferrucci, another good drive from the American in seventh. George Russell with that really entertaining scrap with Callum Ilott earlier on in the race comes home in eighth place as the third best rookie behind Stroll and Leclerc. Callum Ilott ninth, more points for him. Been a good day so far. And Mikkel Jensen comes home as the final point scorer in 10th place. Race winner, Felix Rosenqvist. How many times have we seen that? Well, lots is the answer, more than any times for anybody else this season, and he really has got this run together at the right time in the championship. And I know he's got all the experience, and I know he's got more time in the car in Formula 3 than anybody else, and I know that he's expected to be up there, but that day has brought its own pressures in the championship which he's had to deal with. You know, sometimes being the favourite, having all eyes upon you and being expected to deliver can have a negative effect, but he has dealt with it beautifully this year.
Yes, I agree. It really has been. It's been very, very measured indeed. And I guess the question that we've got to ask is, where do we see him next? Where will he, from this phenomenal performance in the FIA Formula 3 European Championship this year, where will we see Felix Rosenqvist racing next? Well, that's a question for another day, I guess. There's the result in full. Rosenqvist P1, then it's Giovinazzi, Lance Stroll, then Jake Dennis, Charles Leclerc, and then it was Nick Cassidy, Santino Ferrucci, George Russell, Callum Ilott, and Mikkel Jensen, the top 10. The rest of the order there, as you can see, starts with Sergio Santacamara from P11.
Another good drive, which is not going to be rewarded with any points at all, I'm afraid, for Alex Albon. 14th. He's done more overtaking than anybody, I think, today, but he still hasn't been able to pick up a point because of this very competitive field. So here, a look at our third place finisher from the Ferrari Driver Academy. It's the Canadian Lance Stroll in third place, and that's his third visit to the podium in the last 4 races now. Second place, after getting past Lance Stroll on the restart into the final corner, timing it beautifully, it transpires, is Antonio Giovinazzi back onto the podium after a bit of a barren spell. 4 races without a podium, but second place today. And there, with his 4th win on the bounce now, Felix Rosenqvist, second win today, and getting closer and closer to what has so far been an elusive first title in Formula 3. He takes the victory here, and he brings the Prema Power Team car home, and he'll be welcomed by the Italians. He'll be well pleased with their man, and well pleased with the team performance as well. They lead the team's championship, and 4 cars in the top 6, and just to say as well that Charles Leclerc, by my maths, I reckon, has sealed the rookie championship now. So well done to Charles Leclerc, who I know it's gone off the boil a bit for him in recent times, but he still had a really impressive first season in this championship as Charles Leclerc, third in the standings.
Another point that you make there with regards to Prema Power Team and how good it is for them. Now, what's crucial is, of course, for their drivers to do the winning, because they then, like any other team that's involved in the FIA Formula 3 European Championship, they want to attract drivers, don't they? And, if they're successful, like Carlin, like Van Amersfoort, like Muka, they that is their business, isn't it? It's this constant throughput of young talent.
Safety cars breed safety cars, success breeds success, doesn't it?
Yeah, of course.
And that is, I spoke to Fritz Van Amersfoort at the start of the year, and he confirmed that the Max effect, Max Verstappen, had a massive effect on suddenly the amount of drivers that were coming to him saying, we want to be in your team next year, we want to come and test with you, which he hadn't had for a few years, even though they've been a very experienced, a very competitive team. They'd not been right at the front for a little while, and then had this great season last year, and suddenly people come knocking on the door because they see you as obviously a very good team. And opposite side of that is if you just have a bad season, you don't get the best drivers in the car, you might be a great team with a great car, but if you're only down in 15th, 16th in the championship, then less likely are people to come to want to be in your team.
Yeah.
If they've got the budget to choose which team they're in.
that makes perfect sense. Well, another fantastic display then. As here comes the 2.5 with 346.5 for Charles Leclerc. Now, just explain once again the reason for the half points is when a race is abandoned early.
Yes, that's right. With one or two incidents, let's say at Monza, one of the races didn't run the distance. It was held from the duration most of the duration behind the safety car, and they did enough laps to declare it a result, but they didn't do enough laps. They didn't do more than 50% to declare it a full points result. So only half points were awarded in that instance. Which might have turned out to be an annoyance for Felix Rosenqvist, because he won all 3 races at Monza, which had all these dramas going on. But if you looked at the points and he'd been second at the moment, a few points behind, you'd have thought, well, is it the points he lost by winning the race but only scoring half points that did the damage? But it turns out that hasn't affected things, which is a good thing. But that was why the half points were awarded, or a slightly odd system at the head of the field. So he's nearly there, is Felix Rosenqvist. He could seal the deal tomorrow.
Is that going to put additional pressure on him tomorrow? He's in a perfect starting position tomorrow, isn't he?
Why is there any pressure? He's got the quickest car, he's the quickest driver, he's had some great starts. Why shouldn't it continue tomorrow? I think as long as he gets past that first corner, he'll be able to breathe a sigh of relief.